Hello and welcome live in the Feminine Frequency Global Sisterhood of Healers here on Sunday the 28th of December 2025. Thank you for joining me, whether you're here live or viewing later. I'm Jenny Connor from Dalton Moor Farm, the School of Sustainable Living and Wellbeing and Cup of Life Coaching here in Durham in the northeast of England. I'm going to spend the next few minutes talking about rewilding humans. It's a really big subject, so today I'm just going to be giving a very brief introduction to why we need to rewild humans and how that happens. Our physical and mental health has taken a nosedive over the last few decades. Throughout my medical school training and early years as a qualified doctor, I witnessed infectious diseases massively reducing in prevalence, which used to be the most common causes of disease, and then chronic diseases taking over centre stage. And then we've been led to believe that these chronic diseases are part of ageing, something that we simply have to accept and cope with. It was kind of thought that when we stopped dying of infections, we lived long enough to get a chronic disease. And that is what the medical establishment believed to be true for some time. But the cracks in that belief had already begun to show, and we began to realise that lifestyle played a big role in our health. Smoking or chewing tobacco caused cancer. That was one of the first lifestyle diseases, and that information was actually buried by the tobacco industry for decades until they could no longer hide it anymore. And so we were advised then to stop smoking or chewing tobacco eventually. Then as the number and frequency and complexity of chronic diseases continued to increase, our sedentary lifestyle was blamed and we were encouraged to get more exercise, to run or go to the gym. And we've been doing that for decades now, and it hasn't really made any impression at all on the rate of increase of chronic disease. So it's not just that. Quietly, there was evidence that eating more fibre kept our guts more healthy. But that too seemed to get lost for several decades, either intentionally or by mistake. Indeed, the population is eating far less fibre now than ever before, even back in the 1980s, and gut health has continued to decline. Next, we were encouraged to get outdoors into nature, to go and do yoga on the beach, or to bathe in the forest, or bathe in the sea for our mental health, and still our physical and mental health continue to decline. I'll come back to the subject of being in nature in a bit, but first let's talk about food and nutrition. A link between obesity and chronic diseases was becoming clear, and we were encouraged to lose weight by dieting and exercising. Mostly this led to repeated cycles of adding and losing weight with no lasting solution. Again, there has been no slowing down in the rate of increase in obesity and chronic disease. There are various fad diets and programs available to try, and some of you watching may have tried some of them or all of them. But now there are quick fix injections, and soon there'll be tablets of the same medication to mimic the effects of weight loss surgery. But being dependent on medication is far from ideal and comes with a heap of risks and side effects. There's so much noise now about what to eat, what not to eat, and in a way that's a good thing, because it turns out that the biggest causal factor in whether we will be physically and mentally healthy or not is the food we eat. So the noisy information and loud opinion has at least brought food to our attention, but it's very confusing. So how do we find the truth in the noise and cut out the confusion? Well, it's similar to the story of tobacco. We need to very carefully look at the source of the information we're getting. Is this from someone with the necessary depth of knowledge, understanding and experience? Or is this someone with a vested interest in selling you something? The food industry is controlled by just a few main players, big corporations and powerful political influencers. Where there is a big financial interest in us buying and consuming a certain food or food-like product, we should be suspicious about what we're told in the marketing messages that literally bombard our every waking minute. Do we believe that the big food corporations or fast food operators are interested in our best health? Or could it be that they are just after our money? Let's start with junk food. These things are high in fat, salt and sugar, made from reconstituted mush that in all honesty could be anything, but claims to be chicken or beef or whatever. These products are carefully formulated to be intentionally addictive so that we buy them more and more, returning to the vendor again and again. But these food-like substances are not only not good for us, they are bad for us. Now let's consider meat and other animal-derived foods like dairy and eggs. Meat and processed meat has been proven to be carcinogenic to humans. It isn't to carnivores. Animal-derived fats and cholesterol from meat, dairy and eggs are atherogenic, meaning they clog up our arteries. They're not atherogenic in true carnivores. Meat consumption reduces testosterone, quite the opposite effect to the popular image of man and meat. Dairy causes all manner of problems by irritating our mucous membranes, causing chronic sinusitis, rhinitis, irritating coughs, etc. Dairy is, of course, full of maternal hormones, it's mother's milk, that are intended to grow a baby cow into an adult cow. Humans consuming dairy, especially in the massive quantities we now do, is a disaster for our human physiology, causing absolute mayhem because we are not, after all, baby cows. And of course the female hormones in dairy disrupt and interfere with our human hormones, which causes problems for women and for men. If you're suffering with menstrual or perimenopausal or menopausal symptoms, I strongly recommend cutting out the dairy. Then there's the energy in our food. I'm not talking about the calories, I'm talking about the energy here. We're all made of energy. Everything is energy, wavelengths, vibrations, frequencies. Do you ever wonder why the details about animal agriculture are kept so secret, locked away behind guarded fences and walls? We don't have easy access to the details, and mostly we don't want to see or know what really happens to the cows, pigs, chickens, geese, ducks, turkeys, or any other animals. We don't want to look at the conditions in the crowded barns or what exactly happens in the slaughterhouse. Just sit with that thought for a moment. Why don't you want to see? Why don't you want to watch the exposés of the brutality and suffering in animal facilities? What sort of energy is in that? Do you honestly believe that the animals have great lives and are happily grazing in lush green fields in the sunshine? And they don't mind being killed? Really? Do you actually know anything about where your food comes from? If you did, would you be comfortable explaining it in detail to your kids? Any food products from animal agriculture come complete with adrenaline, cortisol, frustration, fear, stress, excruciating pain and terror. A complex cocktail of unhelpful hormones and very negative energy. Just look around at human society and see this anger, frustration, stress and negativity clearly expressed. We are what we consume. We are what we eat. That includes the energy. The science is clear. Humans were not designed to eat meat or other animal products. Our anatomy and physiology are designed for consumption of fruits, herbs, nuts, seeds and grains in their natural whole form. The science is also clear that by switching to eating plants and stopping consuming animals and their secretions, we can halt, reverse or even cure 80 to 90%, perhaps even more, of our modern chronic diseases. And we can massively reduce our chances of ever developing them too. And more evidence is turning up every day. So despite the beliefs of the past decades, we are not consigned to suffering these diseases or to keep taking the medications that mask the symptoms and then suffering the complications of those same medications. We don't have to do what we are told we have always done because we haven't always done it. We have a choice and we don't need it. And that choice is whether or not to take control of our destiny. Whether or not to choose health over illness and human suffering. Because it's not only the animals who are suffering for our food, it's us too. Okay, so we have a choice. That's great news. What do we need to do? How difficult is the change? How long before you're going to feel better after you make the change? The answer is very simple. Change to a whole food, plant-based diet for health of body, mind and spirit, and healthy, active longevity. That has big implications for the meat, dairy and egg industries though, so it is being actively suppressed by big ag so as to keep your money going into their coffers for as long as possible. There is a lot of effort and funding going on into scaremongering about all the things the meat, dairy and egg industries tell you that you will be deficient in if you eat only plants. Of course, none of that is true, but the noise is very loud. A well-organised and trained bunch of trolls, professional trolls, flood the internet with untruthful claims about nutrition. Their intention is to keep you confused enough that you don't make the switch away from their products. Big ag is, of course, supported by big pharma for the very same reason. That's pharmaceuticals, not farming. Did you ever wonder why there are so many drugs that mask symptoms and so few that cure diseases? Only the antibiotics that combat infections, but those will no longer be effective if we keep abusing their use in the animal agriculture industry either. So then we'll return to infectious diseases being the major killers. Anyway, returning to the question of how to ensure our best physical, mental and spiritual health, the answer is eat plants, lots of them, and mainly raw. That might sound daunting depending on where you are at with your diet and lifestyle, but it's quite straightforward with a few things in place and a little bit of learning, and there's lots of support available to help you. Loads of it. If you already have a chronic health condition, you can start to feel the benefit of changing to a whole food plant-based diet in days to weeks. It really is that quick. And if you are well just now and you want to change to prevent future health problems, you will also likely feel benefits very quickly from changing your diet, with more energy, better sleep, brighter mood and much more. Populations eating whole food plant-based with little to no consumption of animal products, who remain physically active with everyday tasks, not going to the gym, simple activities in their communities such as gardening and growing food, and who are connected with their communities, live longer and healthier lives. We can give ourselves a much greater chance of avoiding dementia, arthritis, autoimmune disease, cancers, cardiovascular diseases like heart attacks and stroke, lung diseases, bowel disorders and much more by simply returning to eat what we were designed to, providing our bodies with the building blocks to grow, heal and thrive. Did you know we replace our whole body cell by cell over the course of a few years? So regardless of where you are starting from, there is the possibility of a healthier and happier future you. Coming back now to turn our attention to nature. We have come to view nature as a commodity, a place apart from ourselves and our daily lives, somewhere to go for a vacation or a day trip. Any nature exposure is good, but to merely be visitors and spectators is not enough. We need to really connect with nature, to remember to rediscover our place within nature, all those now intangible connections that we once knew when we evolved in the tropical forest. We need to truly connect with the trees, with the plants and the fungi, with the animals, to be humbled by the vastness, the complexity and the miracle that is nature. To lose ourselves for a while in the fractal patterns that soothe our brains and marvel at their beauty. To rediscover our childlike awe and wonder at a spiritual level, at one with nature and our universe. To be part of nature and nature to be an extension of ourselves. To thrive, we need to rewild our diets, our minds, our hearts and our spirit. I put diet first intentionally. The food, the nutrition we put into our mouths feeds the body feeds the mind, and the mind feeds the spirit. It all begins with the food. It is the very foundation of our health and well-being. How we produce our food is also directly linked to how we are destroying the environment, our own life support system here on planet Earth. Switching to eating only plants is the only way to protect our future on this lovely planet. If we don't make the switch, we will destroy the environment to the point that we extinguish ourselves. And that point is already closer than is comfortable. But that's a subject for another day, because it's another big subject. But anyway, so if not for yourself, do it for your children. Switch to eating just plants. You will be healthier, happier, and as a bonus, you will be comfortable to explain to your children exactly how their food is produced. Indeed, you can get them involved in growing their own fruits and vegetables, just as I did as a child. It's what I have lived, it's what I have experienced, and it's how I continue to live. Bringing this all together now, Rewilding Humans. It involves rewilding our diet and rewilding our nature connectedness. This is the change, the transformation I help humans with. This is how I rewild humans. Through whole food plant-based nutrition coaching and experiences and time spent in nature at Dalton Moor Farm, a vegan wild food forest. To connect with me and to get my help transitioning and transforming your health, drop me a direct message or comment below and I'll get back to you. Thank you for listening. I look forward to connecting. That's all from me for just now. I hope to see you soon. Bye now.